What is up, everybody? Thank you for coming to the first lesson in the first series of the 3D Rad tutorials. This is the real deal, folks. This is how you're going to get it done. I'm sorry if the quality isn't the greatest. I don't have the ability to upload in HD for two reasons. One, because I don't have the software for it necessarily, and I also don't have the internet bandwidth to get these up this century. So I explain everything thoroughly, so even if you can't quite see what I'm doing on the screen, but I also have a little, when I click my mouse, a little ring appears around it so you can see where I clicked. But we should be okay. Now, this video assumes that you have already downloaded 3D Rad. If you haven't done that now, you can pause the video. I have the website in the description. It's 3drad.com, and on the very front page there's a button that says download. When you press that button, you're going to be downloading version 7.22, the latest version of the software, and the last version of the software, because it doesn't get updates right now. That's alright, it's still a very viable piece of software. Now that you have it, and you're ready to go, when you first start it up, this is the screen that you get. It says, new to 3D Rad, don't miss the help files, and they show you a little picture of how to get the help files. Those are all included, and they're on your system, so you don't have to worry about a website going down or stuff getting shuffled, because everything is local. And of course, you're watching these videos, you're going to get even more insight as to how that works. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial is to get you familiar with your workspace. This video is entitled Your New Office, because we're going to treat this like you just got sat down to a new desk with a new software. It's a clean slate, because we do everything from scratch here, but in a lot of cases stuff is taken care of for you. You just have to put in the work to make it do whatever you want. So what's interesting about this screen is that if you click anywhere in here and drag it around, this is actually a sprite. Okay, it's just an image that fits the screen. And over on the left here is a little red bar, and it says startup message. That's actually a game object. And if it's red, that means it's selected. So I can press the delete key, and it says, do you want to remove the object? I click yes, and it's gone. So that's how we add and remove objects in the object list. Because remember, I said in the first lessons, if you haven't watched them, I suggest you do. But this bar, this space, I should say, to the left, is your object hierarchy, for those of you that understand what that means, or just simply your object list. And this is where all the stuff in your game will be put. And in the middle area here, the large region, is both your editing space and your output. And to the right, this does nothing. So I just want to take you around and show you, now that you know that, I'll show you there's only 4 options up at the top here. The first one is called Project, and that's the same thing as like a file menu, where you can make a new file, you can open a file, you can go through a recent file history, you can merge files together, you can put in add-ons. Add-ons are projects that have been compiled into an add-on so that you can click one thing and all the objects associated with that will load, as opposed to loading them individually. So that's useful. You can also save, and that's probably the most important function, or one of the most important functions in this menu, because as we know, if you're doing creative work and you're doing it on the computer, you got to save often, because like other software, Rad does like to crash for various reasons. I mean, that's just the way software is. So saving is important. Control S is your friend. And we have the play and stop functions. When you want to play your simulation or your program, you hit the space bar, and to stop it, you press the escape key. Couldn't be easier. And then, of course, the exit function, which will close the program. Then you have this option that says reload last project at startup. If this is checked, which it is by default, whatever you were working on previously, if you save and you close and you're done for the day, when you start Rad back up the next day, it's going to load the program you were working on automatically for you, so that you can pick right up where you left off. So that's the project menu. In the object menu, we have the option to add. This is another great feature, because this is where you actually dive into your toolbox and add the objects to the project. You can also clone the object that you already have, so that you don't have to keep going back and adding and adding and adding. And of course, remove, which is delete, which I just showed you earlier. these options for installing. You say have install custom skin mesh, install custom rigid body box sphere group, and install custom rigid body polygons. These three functions here are how you are going to add custom content to your project, or more realistically, you're going to add the ability to add stuff to your project. These set up a new folder system and everything you need to create your own content and put it in. You can also uninstall them if you want. And then we have copy and paste properties here, which allows you to, well, it's really what it says. If you have properties for a certain object that you'd like to retain and apply to other objects, you can use copy and paste properties to automatically change all the values of those properties, so you don't have to change them individually every time. And the properties themselves are accessed by just pushing the enter button for whatever object you have selected. And this is, I'm really stretching this out so that you really get the details of this, but it's going to come very naturally and very intuitively after you get going. And then this option here, use middle mouse button for properties preview. If checked, when you press your middle mouse button, it will show you the properties of that object as kind of like a quick view. To actually edit the properties, you press enter or you double click the object. But just to see what the properties are, to reference them quickly, you can hit the middle mouse button on that. So now we're going to go to the edit menu, and edit has different functions like undo and redo, so you can go back and forth if you have small mistakes that you make. You can also reset the object orientation, and this option will change the rotation, which is called the orientation in this program. It'll change the rotation of the object back to what it was when basically its native orientation when it was first loaded. These other options here, which are pretty useful, like move object to editor camera, move object to cursor, and move object to cursor aligned. You're going to see what the cursor actually is in the 3D space, and these functions will allow you to move objects to other objects without having to fine-tune the exact point at which they should intersect. And you can also face objects toward the cursor, which means they will align to wherever you are in the 3D space. And you can also snap objects together simply by pushing the S on your keyboard. And finally, the help menu gives you the 3D help files, and it also gives you this little about page, which says there's your NVIDIA physics, which is very nice. You get your donors, and of course it tells you who did it and the website. So that is your virtual office, and I hope this grand tour has gotten you familiar a little bit with it. In the next lesson, we are actually going to start adding objects to the project and messing with them, so you see how that works and how easy it is to get going with this software. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.